All right, the Sacramento Kings got DeMar DeRozan, did bad for the first quarter of the season, fired previous coach of the year, and here we are with Doug Christie as the interim head coach. Our third game with him, and we are 2-1 in the Doug Christie era. This is right after the game that we beat the 76ers by 6. I previously went to the game a couple days ago against the Mavericks where we also beat them. So 2 great games from the Kings. In this episode, I just wanted to kind of just do a casual little talk about the Kings lately. So first, let me give you the spiel on the whole Mike Brown thing. Firing Mike Brown wasn't the answer, right? Like, firing your head coach isn't gonna make your team better at the end of the day, but that's just like the league we're in. It goes between your head coach, your coaching staff, or your star players. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the head coach that's going to be the first person to go. The game after he got fired was the game against the Detroit Pistons, where we lost by, I think, 1. But Jaden Ivey, he took a 3. De'Aaron Fox fouled him on the shot, and it was an and 1. So, and Mike Brown kind of called him out after the game and said that he needs to be better, and I don't know why he closed out that shot. It shouldn't have been a closeout, but we don't really know what that kind of dynamic was of Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox. Lou Williams kind of talked about that a little bit, kind of tried to expose some players like De'Aaron and DeMar DeRozan, basically saying that they pressured Mike Brown, they pressured the front office for it to be, it's either us or Mike Brown. So I don't know 100% if that's true. De'Aaron Fox didn't say it's true, but Lou Williams said it was. So it's kind of like a whole bunch of drama around whether what the situation is. And at the end of the day, I don't think we're gonna 100% know, because that's just the world we live in. There's truths and there's lies. Anyway, the head coach firing Mike Brown, what does that do to the Kings? I think that definitely puts the front office in a tricky situation, and the locker room and Doug Christie in a tricky situation. Puts the front office in a weird situation because now they have to try to find a new coach. And I don't think that's going to be Doug Christie unless he magically just becomes Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich. Makes them have to find a good coach that'll be able to bring this team together and do a better job than Mike Brown did. So that'll be tricky to find. And it puts pressure on the locker room because De'Aaron Fox actually said something in an interview of someone, I forget what it was. I think it was just a normal like post-practice thing. It was like, we kind of felt a little weird about it at first, but then the plane ride just felt normal. So and from other players, it didn't sound that way. So it kind of felt like De'Aaron Fox projected it as like, he thought it was just a normal day without Mike Brown being there. So again, moving on from De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown, because we'll never know what that dynamic was. Yeah, I think part of the thing with Mike Brown, what kind of led to him also being fired, is that the expectations for the Kings this season were so high because of where Mike Brown got them just like not even 2 years ago, with getting them to the playoffs and then in the play-in tournament the next year. So the expectations were super high, especially with getting DeMar DeRozan, because they thought all we could do is just get better, and they did worse, which leads to them be like, hey, Mike Brown, what are you doing? Like, So Mike Brown raised that expectation so high for the Kings that it hasn't been that high since the early 2000s, when they had, all those guys and were competing they were a championship contender. And that's just not who the Kings are, but Mike Brown did such a good job that he raised the bar so high to where the Kings, it's either make the playoffs or it's a bad season. I think kind of my perspective on why I'm not like super mad about the Mike Brown firing, like of course it's sad for him to see him go, but I think part of the thing is that Mike Brown tried to make the Kings a team that they're not. The Kings aren't a defensive team. Like, just by looking at their roster, you could tell they're not a defensive team. When a coach tries to make a team play like they're not, it's not going to end well. Because Mike Brown tried super hard to make them a great defensive team. It just didn't end up working out. And so the result is you're going to have to just push on that offensive side and just try as hard as you can to get that going, because defense isn't going to come. You have to put points up on the board, and I think Mike Brown focused so hard on defense that put together a good system and talked to Monty about different moves they can make that could kind of build this offense up. And I don't think necessarily getting more star players like we did with DeMar. I think DeMar's a good addition, and I think they're solid with where they're at. Maybe another solid role player for offense. They'll either come off the bench, but I feel like superstar power. I feel like we're fine. I mean, we have 3 all-stars on our team. What else do you need?